One of the ideas that you have that I think is really, really fascinating is this idea of 20th century versus 21st century finance. What does that mean, and how do you kind of delineate between the two?
Well, 20th century finance to me is what our parents did. It's one income stream. It's again what you guys talk about with Bitcoin and crypto, which is it's all about decentralization, right? You don't have a single point of failure, you have multi points of failure, which allows you to have more safety and security, amongst other things. But it's the same with incomes. So, what I see as the biggest failure, and the pandemic proved it for all of us, is that most people, 1 out of 100 people, will die wealthy. The rest largely die, sadly, poor. And I think the reason that is because they have a single point of failure. They have one income stream. And corporations, they are incentivized to make you have one income stream, right? Like employers do not like you to have multiple jobs. They do not like you to be Bitcoin rich and also work at their company typically. And so that's 20th century income and finance in my mind. You have a single point of failure that is your income. You stay at one place and you have a pension until you die. And 21st century is what millionaires do today, 7 to 12 streams of income. And you used to think that that was so hard to get, impossible to get, but it's actually not. Today, more than ever, it's easier to have multi-income streams. In fact, you could do it with $100 by investing in something like Fundrise, which is hard asset real estate in an app. You can do it by investing in cryptocurrency and staking or earning on top of them and having cash flow. So what I talk to people about is how can you go from your one income stream and use that one income stream to get you 10 or 12? Because in my prediction, it's going to get worse, not better. And people who only have one income will be the ones left holding the bag.
When you think about cash flow or income, is that the first thing? Like you need to have the cash flow in order to be able to execute any of these investing strategies?
Well, let's do it two ways. One, I don't like deals where you don't get cash flow right away. That's why I'm not a big fan of angel investing. And we could talk about that later. But when it comes to investing today, I like to put money down on the table and get money back day one. That's called cash flow investing. And we can talk about ways to do it. It's just that most people don't know how to structure deals. And I get it. I only learned this for being in private equity. But so first thing is any deal you do, you should look for payment day one. It is not a good deal if you do not get paid until 10 years, because most angel investments will go to zero, not 100x. And so you need to invest with that in mind. Now, you do have to have some money to start investing typically, or you can use your sweat. So it's either you have equity or you have sweat equity. And what I talk to a lot of people about is even if you're working with somebody, even if you have a job, you like your job, you want to stay there, you should be trying to move towards ownership instead of employment. And you can do that as an employee by asking for things like revenue share, where you take a percentage of the revenue that you help bring into the company, or profit share, which is probably more likely.
When you think about the first deal you did, walk us through, how did you find the deal? How did you negotiate it? And then do you still hold it? Did you think about selling it at some point? Like how do you think about like what the end of that investment looks like?
Yeah, so the first deal that I did by myself completely, I still hold. It was a terrible deal. I won't say the name of the company because I don't want to hurt the operator's feelings. It was a terrible, terrible deal. I went, and it's like sort of the five tenets that I talk about now. I bought a company that was too big because I was cocky. And so it could have broke me. I could have lost all my money doing this first deal. The accountant left basically 2 weeks in. So I'm in like a dusty room full of ledgers trying to figure out what the heck is going on with this service-based business. And they're a mess. The operator was not trusted talent or tried talent, meaning I didn't know the operator and he hadn't done the job before, which is now something I look for with every deal. And then lastly, I had invested in what is called a turnaround business. This is what the biggest issue that young people do is we get all excited. We're like, I'm going to go buy a small business. Look at that laundromat over there. It's a nightmare. It's dirty. Like the machines are old. I'm going to totally redo all of it. Small problem. Never ran a business before, never ran a laundromat before, never turned around a business before. So that's like the people who go and buy houses that are nightmares and then they want to flip it. And their first flip is usually a disaster because you have no idea what you're doing. And so instead, you should take a little bit of the safer bet on the first one and then go do, it's called a hairy deal, then go do a hairy deal that's a little bit harder as you go. But that was my first deal. Now, 12 years later, the deal is profitable. It's a win. It's good to go, which is why I like to do, I think it was like Naval that said, not long-term deals with long-term people. I like to do the same thing with my businesses. Find good ones, hold them forever, never let go of the cash flow.
Why do you hold so much cash?
Well, it's a dichotomy today, right? Like somebody asked the question, they were like, how is it that cash is king and that also cash is trash because of inflation? And I was like, the truth is, it is both. It is literally both today. You need to have a way to protect the cash that you have from inflation and the fact that our government's printing debt like it's going out of style, or printing money like it's going out of style. But you also have to have cash because, in my belief, you want to do what Baron Rothschild said, which is buy when there's blood in the streets, especially when it's yours. And so if you think like me that the world will not always continue to be, at all-time highs, eventually the dance will end. You want cash because illiquid assets won't allow you to take advantage of it. And if you look, like it's actually, I should have brought the stats, but you could Google it. If you look at VC, private equity funds and the vintages or the years that they start investing during recessionary periods, those are always the best performing funds. So you want money that you can access the second things go sideways, which is why you need cash, but you also need things to offset inflation like crypto, real estate, different types of cash flowing assets and small businesses.
We've got a whole bunch of ideas that you sent me in advance of things that people can do in order to buy businesses or sectors that could be interesting for them to kind of get started and make it actionable. The first one is modular homes. And you wrote just in all caps, the future. So what is modular homes in terms of being the future, and what do you think people could do there?
Well, I think we're a ways away from it still. So excuse the enthusiasm. But for instance, I get really excited whenever I can buy something that I'm a value investor in a way, a value cash flowing investor, which is not usually normal. So whenever somebody says there's a market like real estate, it's at all-time highs. I mean, we just bought a property in Austin. It's absolute chaos down there. I'm always looking for how can I get into the asset class, but in the cheapest way possible. And so modular homes are essentially these 3D printed homes or factory built homes. Factory built is more normalized, that are made for quite a lot cheaper than the average. So our house that we bought, so we bought a house in a mountain town, and it's on about an acre of land. And with a house that was like 3,000 square feet, I think the whole thing was we bought it for about 900K. Now in this mountain town, the average home price is about 2.1, 2.3 million. I can't remember the exact amount. So somehow I am able to get in at a bigger plot of land and a great location with a price tag that's about half, more than half, less than half of the price of traditional real estate. And the reason why is because modular home developments are new. So modular homes, you going out right now and buying a factory home, you can see them, they're all over Pinterest. Everybody thinks they look cool. But you do not want to buy a singular modular home because it doesn't scale as well. What you need to do is go out and find developers in the US that are building modular home developments. Their economies of scale from massive factory printing will mean that you can buy at 1/3 to 1/2 the price. And if I was a developer, I'd be doing this all day long because the factory built homes are cool looking. They're much more efficient because about 70% of construction is waste.
It's absolutely nuts. There's a number of businesses. I don't want to name any of them to give free marketing, but in terms of the various businesses, one, there's a bunch of efficiencies that they gain, so you don't get that waste on kind of the construction site. But also, two, is I think that there's a lot of consumer kind of preferences changing, right? People don't necessarily need to live in a city, so there's more demand for people who want to go live in some of these areas. And also, two, is what type of home do they want? Right. And kind of what do they need actually? Do they need a 7-car garage? Probably not. Right. And so I think that you get a number of tailwinds along with the actual unit economics changing. And it seems like that's kind of a bet that you think is worth taking.
Totally. Yeah. I think, anytime you get to invest in innovation at a discount, that's pretty wild. So I think that's an opportunity in the modular home space. Now, I haven't found that many companies that I would invest in that are modular home builders yet because they haven't figured out the scale portion of it yet. But I think if you could do a factory built home and you could own the land and part of the development company, you could cash flow from it today, but you could also benefit from the potential innovation going forward. Because wouldn't it be crazy, man? Like, could you imagine if you were like, what's the brand of your house? If it's not like, where do you live and what does your house look like? It's like, oh no, I live in a pomp house, right? Because just
scary.
Like everything else, yeah, that would be scary. Just like anything else, everything will eventually be branded. And I think your house will be too.
Yeah, makes sense. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching that clip of the Best Business Show. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you know when we go live every weekday, and then head to SoFi.com/pomp so that you can get an account and we can get after it.